You're not lost, you're just avoiding the mirror. So let me start by asking you something that's uncomfortable. If nothing changes in your life over the next 5 years, same body, same habits, same income, same stress, and the same old excuses, would you be proud of the man that's staring back at you in the mirror? Because deep down, you already know the answer, and that's exactly why you keep yourself busy, and that's exactly why the algorithm has blessed you with this video today. So stay tuned, because we're going to transform it for you. Because you're not watching this because you're curious, you're watching this because something in you feels exposed, because you're not broken, you're not lazy, and you're not unlucky. You're just avoiding the one thing that you know would force you to grow. And do you want to know the worst part? You already know it. That's exactly what makes this feel so heavy, but it doesn't have to. Because most men don't suffer because they're failing. They suffer because they're functioning, because you pay your bills, you show up, and you do what's required. But you don't feel alive and excited. You feel flat, muted, and like you're living at half capacity. And because nothing is technically wrong, you just stay stuck. There's no crisis, no rock bottom, no explosion big enough to force real meaningful change, just enough comfort to help you rot slowly. And this is the most dangerous place that a man can live. So I'm really going to break it down, because here's the lie that you keep telling yourself. Here's the story that you're repeating your own head to yourself every single day. I'm just figuring things out. I've got a lot going on right now. I'll lock things in when things finally calm down. I know what I need to do. I just haven't done it yet. But that's not confusion. That's just self-protection, keeping yourself safe from growth, because growth's uncomfortable. Because the moment you fully commit, that fantasy dies. There's no more potential, no more one day, no more stories about who you could have been. Just the reality of who you are. And reality is terrifying when you've been hiding behind good intentions for years, because you're not afraid of failing. You're afraid of finding out who you actually are when the excuses are gone. And that's the part that no one tells capable men like me and you. Failure's clean, it gives feedback, and it forces you to adapt and grow and become different. What destroys you is ambiguity, the grey zone where you're good enough to survive, but not disciplined enough to thrive. And that's where self-respect goes to die. And once the self-respect is gone, it's hard to get back. But here's why intelligent men stay stuck for longer. It's a cruel irony, because the smarter you are, the easier it becomes to stay trapped. Because intelligence gives you explanations. You can rationalize absolutely everything. You know about trauma, you know about burnout, you know about nervous systems, dopamine, attachment styles, childhood patterns, and all the habits you need to make you successful. And you understand why you are the way that you are. And that understanding just becomes a prison that you keep yourself in, because now every weakness has a reason, every delay has a justification, and every slip has a context, because you're not avoiding action, you're just analysing it to death. And you've mistaken awareness for progress. But awareness without enforcement does nothing except make you more ashamed of yourself, because now you know better, but you still don't do better. Know better and do better are two different things, and that gap between knowing and doing, that's where the self-hatred grows, quietly, patiently, but ever so relentlessly. But the feeling that you try not to name, there's a feeling that you avoid sitting with. You feel it in your chest in the mornings, you feel it in your head at night, or on Sunday evenings, or when you see someone your age who clearly didn't waste their time. They've leveled up consistently, mentally and physically. And it's not jealousy, it's recognition. It's the realisation that you've been complicit in your own stagnation. That tightness in your chest isn't anxiety, it's grief. Grief for the man that you keep postponing. You're mourning a future that still exists, but it's getting further and further away every day, every week, every month, every year that you delay it. And instead of facing that grief, you just numb it. So you stay busy, you scroll, you plan, you consume content, and worst of all, you call that productivity. But deep down, you know the truth, that you're hiding from the version of yourself that you know you could and should be. And here's why motivation keeps failing you. So let's kill this myth properly. Motivation is not your problem. Because if motivation worked, you'd already be where you'd want to be. You felt motivated 100 times after a podcast, after a motivational speech, after a workout, after a breakdown, after a scare. You swear that it's all going to be so different this time. And then life happens. You're tired, you're stressed, you're bored, you don't feel like it. So you start negotiating on what you said you were going to do. So you tell yourself, I'll start tomorrow, I've earned a break. Today doesn't really count. And that conversation is completely destroying your life. Because every time you negotiate with yourself and lose, you reinforce one belief: I don't keep my word. And once a man loses that trust in himself, everything else collapses. Your confidence, your drive, your attraction, your presence, it all breaks down bit by bit until it's all gone. Not because you can't do the work, but because you don't believe in yourself anymore. And that's the saddest place that a man can be, and I don't want anybody else to go through that. But here's the real addiction that nobody talks about. You're not addicted to comfort. You're addicted to optionality. The ability to keep your future open without fully committing to it, without going balls to the walls and committing to it. So you want the option to change, but without the cost of changing. You want the identity of a disciplined man, but without the daily constraints. And you want the results without the rules and without the boring daily consistent action that compounds on itself. And that's exactly why you feel trapped. Because freedom without structure doesn't actually free you, it paralyzes you. So the men who look confused, the men who look calm, focused and grounded, they're not more relaxed. They've just decided. They've removed the choice. They don't wake up asking how they feel. They wake up knowing who they are and what actions they need to take today to move their life forward. And because of that, their mind's quieter. Your mind's loud because everything is up for debate. Is this going to work? Am I going to become who I should be? And that's exactly why waiting until you're ready is killing you. So I want you to be honest with yourself. How long have you been almost ready? 6 months? A year? 5 years? 10 years? You keep telling yourself that you'll start when you have more money, you've got more time, when you feel more confident, when you feel less overwhelmed. But let me promise you one thing right now, that moment is not coming. Life does not calm down. If anything else, it accelerates. Responsibilities multiply, energy decreases, habits get stronger. And if you don't install structure now, you don't get stronger later. You just get better at coping, and you need to find more coping mechanisms like substances and distractions. And coping feels like progress until you look back and realise that a decade has just disappeared. But here's the uncomfortable truth about potential, because it's not a gift. Potential is a liability. Because potential without the execution just turns into resentment. You resent yourself, you resent others, you resent the world. And it's not because you're unlucky, but it's because you didn't do the boring, repetitive, unsexy work of becoming reliable to yourself. Because you don't need to become exceptional, you just need to become consistent. And that's exactly what scares you, because consistency removes the fantasy that you've been telling yourself for years. And the fantasy is the last thing protecting your ego and stopping you from leveling up and becoming the man that you know you could and should be. So what's actually required to change? Because let me be clear, you don't just change your life by feeling better, you change your life by removing choice. You stop asking yourself questions that you can't be trusted to answer. So you don't ask yourself anymore, do I feel like training? Am I in the mood? Is today the right day to take the actions that I know I need to be doing? Because those questions belong to the version of you that will stay stuck for another month, another year, another decade. The man you want to become operates on rules, because rules remove emotion. Rules remove negotiation. Rules remove drama. And when rules are in place, progress becomes boring. That's how you know that it's working, because boring is not necessarily a bad thing. It's consistent. And that's why this matters right now. Because if you're still watching this, it's because something in you know this matters, and I'm talking the truth. Not next month, not next year, but right now, in this moment. Because time is not neutral, despite what people have told you. It's either compounding for you or against you. And every day you delay, you reinforce the identity that you say you want to escape from. And identities don't change with insight, they change with repetition. And you don't rise to the level of your goals, you sink to the level of your systems. And right now, your system is designed to keep you exactly where you are, comfortable, but not thriving and excited about life. So here's what I want you to sit with before we go further into this video, because we're going to go very, very deep today. Let me just say one more time, you don't hate your life, you hate that you're capable of more, but still choosing less. And that tension will not go away on its own. It either turns into ruthless daily discipline or it turns into bitterness to yourself and to the world. So in the next part of the video, I'm going to show you exactly why self-improvement is actually making all of this worse, not actually making it better, despite if it feels like it is, and why insight without structure is the fastest way to lose respect for yourself. So if this is already feeling uncomfortable, then good. That means you're finally looking at the right problem. So here's why self-improvement is keeping you weak. Let's get something straight before we go any further into this video. If self-improvement worked the way that you think it does and the way the world has convinced us it does, you wouldn't still feel like this, because you've read all the books, you've watched all the videos, you've saved all the quotes, and you've worked on yourself, healed, and yet here you are in the same position you've been in, still inconsistent, still negotiating, still frustrated with your own lack of follow-through. And that's not because you haven't found the right method. Is because most of the self-improvement content is designed to make you feel productive without actually requiring any change or action. And that's exactly why it feels so addictive. So here's the uncomfortable truth about self-improvement. Self-improvement didn't make you any stronger. It just made you self-aware and passive. So now you understand your patterns and your problems and your weaknesses, but you haven't actually replaced them with structure. And you can name your wounds, but you still haven't installed any daily standards. You can explain your behaviour, but you still repeat it day after day. And every time you just consume more content instead of acting, something subtle happens inside you. Your brain mistakes insight for effort. So you feel like you're moving forward, but nothing in your life actually changes. And that gap between insight and execution is where capable men go to rot. Because now you know better, but you still don't do better. We've got to make that difference between knowing better and doing better, because once we start doing better, it becomes our standard, and that's why your confidence quietly collapses. Confidence isn't built by thinking better thoughts. It's built by keeping promises to yourself. And right now, your track record is poor, not because you're weak, but because you keep making promises that your current system can't support. You say that I'm going to train 5 days a week, I'm going to wake up early, I'm going to cut out the drugs and the alcohol, I'm going to fully lock in, I'm going to make £1 million this year. And then life hits you square in the nose like it does to all of us. Stress, work, fatigue, mood. You miss 1 day, then 2, then you abandon the whole thing, and all of a sudden months have gone by, if not years. And instead of adjusting the system, you just make it a personal attack on yourself, and you start asking yourself things like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I stay consistent? Why am I like this? The self-attack, it feels honest, but I promise you, it's not. It's lazy, because it avoids the real issue. You don't need more willpower. You need less ambition and more structure. Let me say it again. You need less ambition, but more structure, daily structure. And that's why motivation is the most overrated concept in existence, because it's an emotional energy, and emotional energy is unstable. So building your life around motivation is like building a house on quicksand. You don't need to feel motivated to brush your teeth. You don't need to feel inspired to go to work. You don't need a mindset shift to be able to put your seatbelt on. Why is that? Because those behaviours are non-negotiable. You've done them every day, and every day you do them, they become more and more cemented. They're rules, and rules bypass emotion. The men who look disciplined aren't stronger than you. They've just removed the decision-making layer that you keep clinging to. Because your problem isn't laziness. It's too much freedom. Too much freedom. And the hidden addiction that no one admits to is this. And you won't hear anybody talking about it on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram. You're not addicted to becoming, you're addicted to becoming, not being. Becoming disciplined, confident, aligned. Because becoming lets you stay where you are. Being requires proof, and proof removes the excuses. So instead of building a life, you keep refining an identity. And you don't want to fail, but more than that, you don't want to find out that you weren't as special as you thought you were, as the world has told you you are, as you would like to think. And that's exactly why you stay in half committed. Because half committed men can always blame circumstances. Fully committed men only have results. And this is why your nervous system isn't the villain. You've probably heard this line before. My nervous system is just dysregulated. I'm always stuck in fight or flight mode. I just need to heal first. But let me be very, very crystal clear. Your nervous system will not calm down until your life becomes predictable, because safety doesn't come from insight. It comes from routine. It comes from knowing when I wake up, I move. When I feel stress, I train or I take action. And when I feel flat, I still show up and do what I need to do. Because structure regulates emotion, not the other way around. So let me say it again. Your structure will regulate your emotion, and trying to feel safe before you act is so backwards. You've got to act first and create the habit of acting, and then the safety and the momentum will follow. And here's the reason that affirmations don't work for you. Affirmations only work when they align with your behavior. So if you say I'm disciplined and remind yourself that you skip your workouts, your brain flags that statement as false and it just becomes another lie. And every time you repeat it, it just makes you feel worse about yourself. That's not manifestation failing. That's your subconscious protecting you from self-deception. Because you don't build belief with words, you build belief with evidence. And evidence comes from repetition. And repetition requires structure, daily structure. This is why most men quit affirmations quietly after a few days, because they don't want to admit the truth. The words feel hollow because the actions don't back them up. Let me say it again. The words feel hollow because the actions don't back them up. And this is why capable men drift instead of collapse, because weak systems collapse quickly. Strong men drift slowly. That's the danger. Nothing breaks in dramatic fashion. Nothing forces change. You just keep functioning at a level that's just about good enough. But inside, something in you erodes. It might be your edge, your hunger, your self-respect. You don't need to feel proud of your days. You just tolerate them. And then tolerance is the enemy of greatness and becoming your best self, not pain. Because if you just tolerate the comfortable life you've been living, it becomes your standard. So here's the cost of staying in limbo. Let's talk about the cost. Not money, not time. Every year you delay installing structure, the bar just lowers. You stop expecting more of yourself and you're calling it maturity. But it isn't. It's resignation. You don't suddenly wake up at 40 with discipline. You wake up with habits. And habits don't negotiate. They compound on themselves. Day after day, the results build and build and build. And right now, your habits are compounding away from the man you want to be, not building him indefinitely. So here's the shift that will absolutely change everything for you. And the shift isn't mindset. It's identity enforcement. When you stop asking yourself, what do I feel like doing? And start asking, what does a man who respects himself do next? Because you don't rise to the level of your vision. You sink to the level of your standards. So if your standards are vague, emotional, or optional, your life will just always reflect that. And clarity creates calm. Rules create freedom. Let me say that again. Clarity creates calm and rules create freedom. So what does structure actually look like in a real life? Not monk routines, not 5 a.m. ice baths for Instagram, not 12-step morning rituals. Real structure looks boring. It looks like daily movement, no debate, clear rules around alcohol, non-negotiable sleep windows, simple mental reps done even when they feel pointless. It's consistency over intensity. Always. You don't need to dominate your day every day. You just need to own a few key behaviours thoroughly so they happen without having to force yourself to do them each day. And that's how momentum is built, and that's how momentum is compounded and maintained. So why does this feel so threatening? Because if this is hitting in, it's because it's removing your last hiding place. No more waiting, no more healing loops, no more one day. Just action that scares you. Because it means responsibility, not guilt, responsibility. And responsibility means that you can't keep pretending anymore. So where is this even heading? Because I'm about to show you exactly how men like you rebuild self-trust from zero. Not through hype, not through motivation, not through identity games, but through a simple daily system that forces momentum even on your worst days. So if you've been nodding along to this and this feels uncomfortably accurate, then you already know this is the conversation that you've been avoiding. Good, because that means that you're way closer than you ever think, which is why I'm going to show you how we can build the man that you can't escape being. There's no theory here, no fluff, no motivation porn. This is lessons learned from blood, sweat, tears, and from working with so many private clients. This is about execution that survives your worst days. So I'll show you how to rebuild your self-trust, end self-sabotage, and make permanent change inevitable. So let me tell you something that most coaches won't. You don't hate yourself because you're broken. You hate yourself because you keep lying to yourself. And the worst thing is, it's not even big lies, just the little small ones that I'll start Monday. I'll start training later. I'll lock in when things calm down. I know what I need to do, because every time you say those things and then you don't follow through, you fracture that bit of your self-trust that's left. And a man without self-trust is just dangerous to himself, and nobody else can trust him either. So you wonder why opportunities don't come your way. Because when you don't trust yourself, you stop aiming high, you stop committing, and you stop believing that change is truly possible. And this is the part, and the last bit of this video is going to be about how we permanently change that. So here's the real reason you feel stuck. Let's strip it right back to basics. Your problem is not discipline, it's not confidence, it's not mindset. Your problem is that you've got no system that protects you from yourself. So when you're tired, stressed, emotional, bored or distracted, you just default to your old patterns. Not because you want to, but because habits always win against your intention. You don't rise who you want to be, you fall to what your system allows you to be. And right now, your system's just allowing you to drift away from the man that you know you could and should be. So here's exactly why trying harder never works, because trying harder relies on emotion, and emotion, as we've already discussed, is unreliable. Some days you feel fired up, some days you feel flat, some days life hits you square in the nose, and a system does not care how you feel. And that's exactly why a system works. This is the part that most men miss. They think consistency comes from motivation, but it doesn't. Consistency comes from removing the choice and having your daily non-negotiable actions and doing them every day. So here's the only thing that can actually rebuild your self-trust, because it's not built by thinking positively about yourself. It's built by keeping small promises to yourself repeatedly. That's it. Not big dramatic changes, not overnight transformations, small, boring, repeatable actions daily, even when you don't feel like it. Especially when you don't feel like it, because every time you do what you said you would do, something inside you shifts quietly and you start to believe in yourself again. You start feeling excited about yourself and about your life, and belief changes behavior faster than motivation ever will or ever can. So here's the structure that works for men like me and men like you. Here's what doesn't work for you: overcomplicated routines, extreme rules that you can't maintain, and all or nothing plans. What works is minimum effective structure. Enough to force momentum, but not so much that you rebel as soon as life gets hard. This is the core of the system that I use with my private clients, and it looks deceptively simple. And if you want that system, the Become Unfuckwithable Blueprint, the link's in the description. It's a free download, so click the link and let it change your life. But here are the 3 anchors that change everything. Every man I work with builds his life around non-negotiables, not goals, not anchors, anchors, things that happen regardless of your mood. Daily physical output, not punishment, not ego lifting, not chasing the perfect plan, but movement with intent. Train, walk, sweat. I don't care what it is, but you need to do it every single day, because physical output regulates your nervous system faster than any mindset exercise ever will. You don't think your way out of stagnation, you move your way out. Number 2 is daily mental reps. Not endless journaling, not spiritual bypassing. Simple reps that build awareness and direction. Write down what you've been avoiding, the lies you keep telling to yourself. Name the lie that you've told yourself today. Reinforce who you're becoming through action-based language. This is where subconscious programming actually works. When it's tied to behaviour, you stop trying to numb yourself out and you stop drifting, and you start steering and being in control of your life and moving forward. Number 3 is clear rules, not vague intentions. Rules beat motivation every time. Rules like I train before I consume content. I don't drink when I get stressed. I go to bed at the same time regardless, because rules remove negotiation. And negotiation is where self-sabotage lives. And the self-sabotage is the one thing that holds you back, because it's you holding yourself back. So why does this feel too simple? Because your ego wants complexity. Because complexity feels intelligent. Simplicity feels exposed. And if it's simple and you're not doing it, there's nowhere to hide. And that's why most men avoid systems like this, because they'd rather believe change requires something that they don't yet have. More confidence, more time, more motivation. But I promise you it doesn't. It requires standards. So what happens when you stick to a system? At first, nothing dramatic. That's the dangerous part that actually stops people committing and going all in on it, because there's no fireworks, no big identity shift, just quiet momentum. And then something strange happens. Your reactions change, your tolerance for bullshit drops, and your energy stabilizes. You stop needing hype and you start trusting yourself again. And when a man trusts himself, his whole life starts to reorganize. Career, relationships, body, presence, momentum in all these areas that matters to us. Not because he's chasing them, but because he's finally congruent with his higher self. But this is exactly why most men never change, because they want certainty before committing to anything. But certainty only comes after commitment and regular action. So don't wait until you feel ready. You move, then the readiness follows. You become ready by getting ready and taking action. This is where most capable men stay stuck forever. Too smart to be reckless, but too cautious to ever to become great. And that's exactly why I built the Become Unfuckwithable blueprint in the first place. I didn't build my system because I was successful. I built it because I was failing. A life of crime, addiction, over 20 grand's worth of debt, self-hatred, burning bridges with friends, family, business partners, connections, zero self-trust. And I didn't need motivation. I needed something that worked on days when I still felt like quitting. So I stripped everything back to what actually moved the needle. Daily physical output, daily mental structure, clear rules. That's it. No hype. That system saved my life. And it's the same system that I give to the men that I work with now. The Become Unfuckwithable blueprint. It's changed my life and so many of my clients' lives, and the link's in the description for you to download. It's the exact system that I use with my private clients to rebuild their discipline, their structure, and their self-trust. It's not inspiration. It's not theory. It's a practical framework that you can implement immediately. It shows you how to install daily non-negotiables, how to stop relying on motivation, how to rebuild confidence through action, and how to remove self-sabotage at the root to stop it from keep ruining your life. And it's free because I want the right men in my world. Men who are done consuming and ready to execute and take action consistently. So if you want it, click the link in the description or comment the word blueprint on this video and I'll send it through to you directly. So once you've got the blueprint, the next level is a power hour breakthrough call, because for some men, clarity isn't the issue, commitment is. That's exactly where the power hour breakthrough call comes in. One focus session where we expose your exact self-sabotage loops, build a system around your real life, set rules that you actually follow, and remove the excuses that you've been hiding behind. No therapy, no hand-holding, just truth and structure. So if you're serious about making the next year different, not just talking about it, one that will actually change your trajectory fast. So here's a final truth before this video ends, because I've said a lot today, so I hope you've really took it in. A year from now, you'll be living with the habits that you're building right now, whether you choose them or not, because time doesn't care about your intentions. So the question isn't, can I change? It's, am I willing to stop negotiating with myself? Because the moment you install structure, your life stops being such a debate with yourself every day. Do I feel good today? Do I not feel good? Am I going to take action? And once that happens, momentum just becomes inevitable. So if this video hit, you already know what to do. Stop waiting, stop hiding, start building. This is your line in the sand. So if you want the blueprint, click the link in the description, get your free download of it, or comment the word blueprint on this video and I'll send it. And if you want to cut through the noise and lock this in properly, then book the power hour breakthrough call. But either way, make a decision, because in a year's time, there's going to be a year past. So you can either have another year of self-sabotage and not taking action and saying you're going to change and lock in, or you can have a year of crafting yourself mentally and physically and moving forward non-stop. Which one's it going to be? I'll see you in the next video. Let's go.